Wow. Like the notion of Canada developing their trade relationships and their trade partnerships and their trade efficiency accelerated at what seems like to like light speed yesterday after we heard the Prime Minister of Canada give a preview of his expectations, of his government's expectations around trade with other countries, obviously besides the U.S., diversifying our trade. And therefore, we just got to talk about what that means. And joining us for that today is again, hi Carolyn from back east, and the CEO of FITT, and how training will make an impact on that, achieving those what we think are now very ambitious trade goals. But John,
Very ambitious.
right? So let's
Yeah.
talk. Okay, so let's start getting a handle on that. John, why don't you get us going? Provide a context. Give us a sense of why we should pay attention to what he said recently.
Well, he said it last night, and in the last few months, there have been some statistics thrown around, two of which have made an amazing impact, I think, on this country. One was to put the dollar cost to the Canadian economy on interprovincial trade barriers, which now is understood to be about $250 billion a year, which is what Mr. Carney has put in his agenda as a key deliverable, that is to reduce or eliminate interprovincial trade barriers, which makes of this country a much more competitive platform for businesses that are competing abroad. Last night, he delivered another number. He challenged the Canadian economy to generate $300 billion of non-U.S. export trade within, I believe, 3 years. Now, these are big numbers.
Are they? I'm a layman. Are they big numbers?
These are huge numbers. What's a billion? Well, a billion is approximately 6,000 jobs for Canadians in a year, $1 billion worth of exports. Now, that means that our exports to the United States at the moment employ approximately 2.5 million Canadians. So the challenge he has put out there is for us not just to achieve the diversion of trade, but in fact to so fundamentally reshape the direction of the Canadian labor force. By the way, just for sake of completeness, there are about 2.7 million Americans employed in generating sales to Canadian companies, creating value for Canadians. So now we're looking at a domestic market free of interprovincial trade barriers, which will one way or another generate an additional $250 billion worth of economic activity, according to the Prime Minister. And now he wants an additional 300 billion rather. This is a massive transformation of the Canadian economy, and as we all know, John, this can only be achieved not by governments, although John Tennant's one of our first interviews in this podcast gave us a very clear view of the tremendous work the government of Canada has done to create free trade agreements with a whole range of countries. And that work is ongoing and extremely important. But if we are to successfully rise to the Prime Minister's challenge last night, the work will have to be done by the private sector. And I've asked Caroline back today because the whole business of building capacity, by the way, training, well, he revealed in his remarks that training opportunities were going to be a major part of the budget next month. But anyway, I've asked Caroline back by view of FITT's more than 30 years of delivering practitioner training across the country to exactly build the human capital necessary to assure the success of Canadian businesses abroad. That equipping of Canadian exporters and exporting companies, internationally trade-focused companies, is going to become one heck of a challenge if any of these numbers are actually to be met.
So, Carolyn, before you respond, and thank you for coming on today again.
My
John and I,
pleasure.
the John and John show here is quite entertaining because there's a bit of a yin and yang going on here. Generally, I'm the, passionate, rather out of control host, and John sort of delivers the very objective and sort of concrete opinions. I haven't seen John this out of sorts in quite a while. Okay, so you please tell me why we should start to just either get unsettled or get excited or just ponder what happened. What do we got to do to reach these targets?
Oh, I have a ready-made answer for that.
Right on.
I think these are really ambitious and massive targets, and I'm excited about them. I think they're great targets, but it's not going to happen in a vacuum, right? I think if we want to really translate the Prime Minister's vision into results, we're going to need to invest in more than just infrastructure and more than just market access. I think the free trade agreements are great, but they're a start and it provides market access. But we also need to really invest in something, in my view, which is just as critical, and that's export skills and knowledge infrastructure, because that will empower SMEs to compete and to win in global markets. Because the success of this, the Prime Minister's entire plan, to me, comes down to one central question for Canadians. Do we have enough Canadian SMEs that are export ready? And I think that is the critical question. And I don't think we do at
Yeah,
this
I
point.
agree with you. I agree. I think we've been complacent. I know how to do
Yeah.
business with Seattle. I know
Yeah.
how to do business, and I had a company where I did a ton of business with Florida and Georgia and the Carolinas. I know how to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know have a, I that was a while ago. It would be a challenge for me to start trading to Europe
Yeah,
and
I think
or to
so.
Asia.
Yeah. And as John mentioned, FITT, we've had, over 3 decades of helping Canadian businesses build the skills, build the confidence, and build the insights to succeed in global markets. And as you said, we've trained thousands of people, helping people support the businesses that they work for to go from local to global. And I think if we can align the Prime Minister's diversification plan with FIT's proven capability and capacity to support businesses, we can make sure that these ambitious goals are supported by, to me, real and lasting capabilities across the small and medium-sized business community of Canada. Because I think the real issue is not capacity can be gained. We need the commitment. Commitment can be gained as well, but we really the real issue is not, sorry, the real issue to me is not commitment, it's the capacity. So we have the commitment. We have the commitment of the government. We have the commitment of the Prime Minister, but I don't think we have the capacity, as I mentioned earlier. We have a strong political will for diversification, and we've had that political will. John and I, go back a long time. And John, you were there in the early, even before FIT was created. And it's been decades since that we've had a strong political will for diversification. The problem to me is really structural, and it's about building the practical capabilities to compete on the world stage, because we have a lot of gaps in the businesses, market intelligence. It's easy to, I can't tell you how many times I'll talk to a business and say, well, what market are you looking to expand to? And they'll reply, they're looking to expand into Asia, or they're looking to expand into Europe. And of course,
Yeah,
Asia
big.
is a big place, right?
Right? Kind of a few languages, a few rules.
There's a few languages, a few rules to be looked at, just as, John's favorite topic, just as there is in Canada, and hopefully not for long, the provincial rules. But I just really think there's a lot of SMEs that are anxious and want to export, but they just don't have the practical skills and knowledge to do it. And without a strong skills base, it doesn't matter. The best trade policies aren't going to be able to deliver results on their own. Are the results that we're looking for, or the results that we need?
Yeah. Let
Because,
me chime in here, John.
the trade agreements, like, they only work when companies actually know how to use them.
Yeah, and what I would add is that really the most motivating piece of information that a company can ever receive about a market abroad is the knowledge that somebody might like to do business with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, FITT, Caroline, the education system, there's a whole network of assets, infrastructure assets for companies to rely on. Here abroad, we have what is the world's oldest trade commissioner service, the world's oldest government-funded trade service, and in 150 posts around the world, there are Canadian and locally engaged staff who are equipped to find customers. Now, investors, technology transfer, or export sale.
And about 25% of them are trained by FITT
Yeah, yeah,
and growing.
yeah. It's basic requirement these days
Yeah.
for trade commissioners to take the courses. What Mr. Carney should be doing right now is challenging his Minister of International Trade and the Foreign Minister to make sure that the Trade Commissioner Service is well motivated, well deployed, has the resources and the skills to turn strangers into customers,
Well,
possessed of the knowledge that a company in Costa Rica that is known to the embassy wants to do business with a particular firm in Canada, well, then that company has to equip itself not just to do the deal, but to make money at it. And that's where FIT comes in terms of building the capacity.
I have been committed to online training and lifelong learning better part of now 30 years, and have owned companies that have done that and have been passionate about training the driver of the ship, car, whatever you want to call it, in this instance, business. And for you, John, to recently introduce me to FIT has been revelation. And so let's, Carolyn, get into a few details here. Folks to get okay. Here I am. I've heard this. I'm excited. I want to, wow, this is wow. Like I've lost my U.S. business. I've got a commitment from my government to help me do business abroad. John's just told me that I even have folks that might help me build my sales funnel. This is great. And I ask everyone around me, let's go. And they all go, well, where? Go where? How do we go? What do we do? So now what happens? I pick up the phone. I get a hold of you folks. Tell me what's next. What happens?
Well, for the first thing you probably want to do is do a bit of a SWOT analysis in terms of the company is and understand why do you want to export, right?
Does
And
FIT help with that?
yes, I think yeah, we can help with that. We have an export vision board right now that people can go on, download online, and it starts asking you all these questions that will walk you through why you want to export, the capabilities you have or lack, and
Yes.
then try, how you're going to fill that gap of picking a
Capacity.
market.
Capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Capacity. It's all about capacity. But ultimately, what you want is if you're planning to export, it's not it's not an overnight strategy. I mean, the Prime Minister's strategy right now, he's talking about results in 10 years. Well, we have to start now, and businesses have to start now. It just doesn't happen overnight. You need to, if you're planning to take your business global, you need to start training yourself and your team. And some of the training programs that we offer, we offer anything from 1 hour to very, very comprehensive courses. But if you're just an individual, small, medium-sized business and you want to look at, is it feasible for my company to go international? That would be the feasibility of international trade course that we have. Is the trade opportunity you're looking at, is it viable? Do the benefits outweigh the risk? And then you want to look at, as I mentioned, first and foremost is probably the export vision board that we have, and we partnered with EDC on the development of that. It's a wonderful tool. And then you start looking at things like what markets to enter, international sales and market, determining what out of the 100 and some odd countries, 200 countries in the world, what market are you going to enter and why? And then how are you going to enter that market? Because there's a lot of different market strategies, market entry strategies that you can take, and all of them will vary depending on the country you're going to and what type of connections you have. And then there's also courses on how to adapt your product and services for international markets. How do you sell? How do you market your program? And then the most important one is international trade finance, where you can get support from organizations like EDC. to support your financing, ensure your international trade deals. And and then also John was mentioning the trade commissioners. The trade commissioners ultimately want to work with companies and they have limited resources just like all of us. And they want to work with companies that are export ready. And we can help people and help companies get export ready.
Wow. Okay. Start with we've got like a buffet of resources here.
A
We
buffet, and you know, for somebody who's just actually thinking it, where I would direct them to initially as well, and I forgot to mention that is the Fit Skills Light series. Again, we developed that with Export Development Canada, and those are free resources. They're videos and a PDF, less than an hour read, shorter videos, and it takes you through 12 different topics on international trade. And it will help you as a company, work if you're running a business, it will help you really understand what you need to know. Like just going through, and those are completely free resources. And they're hands-on, practical, designed by business for business. So you're not you're going to get what SMEs are looking for, which is practical tools that you can put into action right away.
well, this is far too good of an answer. Trade commissioners, FIT,
Export
EDC,
Development Canada.
EDC, getting John Treleaven out of retirement. Uh, Carolyn and John, I don't know if there's altogether that much more we need to talk about, but I think what we should do, if it's okay with you, is think about maybe after the budget, just touching base again and getting like, okay, what really happened? Because
Right.
and okay, and does that? I'm pretty sure it will, but let's just connect the dots and say, and let's reinforce to all of our viewers the sort of answers that Canadian businesses can get once they start asking the question that John started, that I started with: how do we diversify our trade? Thank you.
Great idea.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank you,
for asking
Caroline.
me back.